Hey, what's going on, guys? What's going on, YouTubers? Hope everybody is about to have a happy 4th of July. My viewers here that are in the United States of America. I'm going to talk to you today about African Americans and the American Revolution. Now, let me explain this. In this politically correct world, make it look like that America was a slave nation that founded on slavery. And with the 1619 Project, talks about that one of the reasons the United States broke away from England is because England was pushing an abolition of slavery, and many of the Southern planters wanted to keep their slaves, and that's not entirely true. A lot of that is not true, actually. First, we'll talk about the African Americans that fought in the American Revolution. The colonist forces in the American Revolution were integrated. It was what George Washington called a mixed multitude. Also, the black and white soldiers were paid equally. There was equal pay. And Number three, the vast majority of African American soldiers that fought for the colonists, the ones that were slaves when the war began, received their freedom. Now, not all did. There were masters that broke their promises and sent them back to being slaves, but the vast majority of them became free. Now, they did. And there were African Americans that received recognition for their performance, free blacks and enslaved blacks. One of the most notable ones was Salem Poor for his performance in the Battle of Bunker Hill. He received recognition from the newly formed United States government for his performance at Bunker Hill. Now, let's talk about before the war. Lord Dunmore, who was the governor of Virginia, issued a proclamation trying to free black slaves in Virginia. But the reason that was issued was because the British knew that American independence movement and revolution was about to happen, and the British were trying to weaken the United States. Okay, that's why it was issued. It had nothing to do with African Americans as a people or anything like that. Okay, and the vast majority of the blacks that did fight for the British were sent back, or if they were freed, they were sent to Sierra Leone, and many of the descendants live in the country of Sierra Leone to this day. Sierra Leone was a British colony at that time, where they sent many of those newly freed slaves. The reason that George Washington did not end slavery after the American Revolution is because he knew if he did that, it would cause another civil war, and the British could absorb the United States again. But what George Washington did, and the founding fathers after that, passed a lot of laws politically and intellectually that ensured that slavery could not survive. Number one, the Northwest Ordinance of 1796 that banned slavery in the Northern Territories. The Northwest Ordinance. And yeah, that did that. And then the slave trade with African nations was abolished in 1808. So about 50 to 60,000 blacks chose to fight for the British in the American Revolution. About 5,000 to 8,000 blacks chose to fight for the colonists. But typically the ones that fought for the colonists fared better and got their freedom after service in the war. Not saying it didn't happen on the other end, but a lot of times it didn't. Yeah. Some Hessian soldiers that were German mercenaries that fought for the British, they brought blacks back with them to Germany, which is why you do see black people in Germany to this day. But the reason, okay, and then also with the taxes, yes, the British were taxed a lot higher to pay for the French and Indian War with all the war debts England had than the colonists were. But here's the thing. The reason the colonists got upset about all that, it wasn't the taxes in and of itself. It was called taxation without representation. It was that they didn't have any representation in Parliament. And to a certain extent, that's what the Virginia planters were complaining about. It wasn't slavery in and of itself. It was because Lord Dunmore had issued that proclamation, and the planters themselves did not have any representation in Parliament. So that's that. So anyways, hope everybody has a blessed 4th of July. Hope everybody's doing well. Take care. God bless them. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.